said, my name is Tony DeGonia. I'm the sales engineer for South Central United States. And today we're going to do tech tips and tricks. We're going to cover deep packet inspection and with SSL traffic. Just a couple of quick things. We're going to cover a couple of things here in our PowerPoint. The PowerPoint's very brief. We're going to cover, HTTPS proxies, adding proxies to your configuration, those general settings, content inspection, domain names, web blocker, AV and alarms, and then we'll also talk about certificates with HTTPS proxy inspection. We'll talk about how to export a certificate from your Firebox, how to convert that certificate, and then upload it into a client on a device. This slide deck will be available at your request because it does have links to our documentation and knowledge base, each topic. This can get pretty in depth. We're gonna keep it on an even keel and try and keep our time to about 20 to 25 minutes, so that we don't take up too much time. But you will have this available that we can email out to you, and I'll be glad to do that if you'll just request that at the end of the presentation through the webinar questionnaire system. And when I get that, along with any questions you may have, I'll be glad to email that out to everyone. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up our Firebox here, close down some of this stuff. And as you can see, we have a number of policies. Today we're going to work primarily on policies for our finance department. And so as you can see, I've created an interface, a trusted interface for the finance department with IP scheme of 192.168.10.1 with /24. So that's all set up. It does provide DHCP out to that network with a range of about 18 IP addresses. We've got everything set up on the back side of this. So that's ready to go. We've also created an HTTP policy for finance. So if you see here, that policy's been created. We've got finance as our primary from location, and any external, because we're running a multi-WAN setup. We've set up any external to go to that multi-WAN. We've set up application control for finance. We've also set up a proxy action for finance that shows a number of things. Primarily what we'll be looking at is the web blocker. We've set up a web blocker specifically for finance, and we've went in and chosen a number of categories to block. And this plays a part because web blocker is actually one of the things that you use when you go to scan network traffic, secure traffic, and go into deep packet inspection. Antivirus is set up. That's important because it's one of the things that we're scanning with. We've also set up our APT blocker in case we find anything. Then we'll pass that along to last line for further inspection. So at this point, we'll go ahead and close out of this, and we'll create a new HTTPS proxy so that traffic can pass through there from the finance department over to the external interfaces. So we go up here, we'll go to proxies, we'll choose HTTPS proxy, and we'll add that. Okay, so we'll remove any trusted because it's not for any trusted. It is specifically for the finance department network. So we'll add that here. Click OK. I want to enable application control, and we'll go ahead and use the same application control that we would use for the finance HTTP proxy. We want to change the name up here to HTTPS. I like a clean naming convention where I know exactly what's going where, when, and how. And then for our proxy action, we'll create a new HTTPS proxy action. And this is where things get a little interesting. In order to deep packet inspect anything, you need to enable deep packet inspection of HTTPS content. You can allow SSL version 3. However, it's not recommended that you allow SSL version 2, as that has become obsolete and is actually considered insecure. For the proxy action, we'll actually choose HTTP Finance, and that will invoke the similar web blocker settings for the actual blocking of those categories. Now, as you can see, there's another web blocker setting up here, and that's for an entirely different purpose. We'll also use our OCSP to validate certificates. And we can, if we want, choose if a certificate can't be validated through OCSP, then that certificate will be considered invalid. That's a choice. It does add to the security of your scans. So there's two ways that you can block or deep packet inspect traffic as it's coming through this HTTPS scan, or proxy rather. You can add domain names. We'll do something like badwebsite.com / and then we'll throw a wildcard in there. You can add something like that, and if matched, tell it to inspect. If you want to, inspect just a few sites, or if you have a list of sites that you want to inspect on a regular basis. But you can also use that to allow traffic to pass through sites that are good, or like banking sites, stuff that doesn't play well with deep packet inspection. You can actually add that, goodsite.com / star for the wildcard, and then you can tell that to allow it to pass through without being inspected. We do that with WatchGuard services. You can add any number of sites depending on the need. But where you get your deep inspection is actually through your web blocker. You set up a web blocker, and we'll name this Finance Inspection. So that when you're looking at your proxies and policies, you can tell the difference of what's going on. And I like to go ahead and give it a description. So you can actually go in here, and it says deny all categories, but that's not really what's going to happen. What's actually going to happen is you're going to go in there, and everything that you check is going to be deep packet inspected. So we'll go ahead and add that in there. As we can see, actually, let me go in here and do something. Make a quick change. We'll uncheck everything here, because now we can tell it when to inspect. Okay, so we'll tell it if anything is uncategorized, then we'll inspect it. We'll go through and inspect anything in these categories here, which they should be blocked. However, if something does get through, we want to make sure that we inspect that. We want to inspect, anything that you wouldn't necessarily want folks, could come up and potentially be something bad. Drugs, that's always a good one to inspect. Depending on, how you use the internet for that particular department, you may not want to inspect video type, streaming video and stuff like that, because that could actually cause latency For internet telephony, it could slow it down, cause jitter. You could have some issues there. Peer-to-peer file sharing is definitely something. If you're going to allow it, you definitely want to inspect it because there's a lot of nefarious things floating around on peer-to-peer file sharing. Let's see here. Personal storage backup, definitely want to do that. I would do things, gambling games. There's just a number of things. Proxy avoidance. It's pretty much anything IT related for non-IT users, with the exception of maybe if you have some specific web collaboration type stuff going on. You get the gist of it, right? So you go through here and you choose the different categories that you want to inspect, and then you hit OK. For your general settings, you don't need to worry about a whole lot here unless you're running SNMP traps for a maintenance and remediation system. And I'll take a look back here at the content inspection. We'll just go double check everything. I'm going to go ahead and remove goodsite.com because that's not actually a site that I'm aware of. And we're good here. So at this point, you've got everything you need on this. So this will be HTTPS for finance. And you've created your policy for your finance. Pretty simple, right? We'll go through here, we'll check the policies. We want to make sure that we turn on logging so that we can send any traffic that goes through this policy over to Dimension, because we want to run logs on that. And then we'll take a look here. If we're going to do any rate limiting, we're not going to do any traffic management or anything like that. So everything's good there. We're not going to turn on any QoS because we're not really planning on having any VoIP services running across this policy. However, if we were, then this would be where we would turn that on. So everything there's pretty well standard. And so we're good to go on this piece. We've also went in, we've looked at the app control, and one other thing I want to look at here. When we go into this just so you're aware, this HTTP finance is the exact same setup that you put in the HTTP protocol. So your web blocker is the same, your antivirus is already set up. So you kind of kill two birds with one stone there. You already got your APT blocker set up for the HTTPS policy as well. So setting it up is that simple. Now, here's where the fun begins. Because anybody who logs in and draws an IP address off of that interface in the finance department, what's going to happen is when you have a website that is secure, an HTTPS / whatever.com, anytime that site is deep packet inspected, the WatchGuard is going to take that SSL certificate and it's basically going to break that packet down, and it's going to inspect it at multiple layers. And then it's going to reassemble that packet and assign a new SSL certificate to it from the signing authority that's built into the WatchGuard device. Okay? So what's going to happen is when you have an end user inside that network that visits that secure website, they're going to get an error back that says that website is not secure. And we've all seen it. It's just one of those, it comes up and it says, this is not a secure site. Click here to bypass this, and they'll have to bypass it. So the second step to all of this is probably, well, for frustration's sake, it's probably more important than the deep packet inspection, because if you're going to do deep packet inspection, it's going to cause frustration for your end users. And we're looking at our PowerPoint here, and we'll go back to that for just a second. What you have to do is you have to export a certificate from the Firebox, and then you have to convert it and then send it out to all the clients in the network that's using the policy that has a deep packet inspection. Okay, so we'll just log in right here on this page, and we'll just take a quick look at it, and we'll go from there. Help you understand a little bit better. Okay, so when you export from WSM or from the web UI, you're going to export a .pem file, and then you're going to have to convert that to a .der file, and then you're going to have to send that out to each machine that uses that policy. So we'll go into the WatchGuard System Manager here. Actually, we have to go into the Firebox System Manager, and we can actually look at the certificates from there. Let's give it just 1 second. Or maybe 2 seconds. So when that comes up, as soon as it connects here, we'll see a certificate button. We can actually go and show the appliance certificates. So the appliance certificates is right here under View, or you can drop down the view and look at the certificates just like that. And that'll pop up here. And so you want to look at the assigned CA certificate. Actually, this signed, it's going to have the little star next to it. And you want to export that. Once you export it, I always like to name it something so that I can recognize it, because I have a lot of stuff on my desktop all the time. And we'll save that there. And we'll close this out. We'll close that out and minimize a couple of things. And because I do this often, there's a couple of different places you can go to convert these to DERs, but SSL Shopper has an online converter that works pretty well, in my opinion, and it's pretty easy to use. You just go there, you click on Browse, and you find your Firebox CA, open it up, convert the certificate. It'll convert it to a standard to a DER binary. We're going to save as. And we'll save that as a Firebox CA. Okay, so here's our certificate. And we're good to go there. Now we have something that we can upload into our browser or into our certificate store within the operating system. In this case, we'll use the browser, because that's probably the easiest way to do this. Now, something to note, is that most of your browsers are going to use the same certificate store, with the exception of Firefox. Firefox has its own certificate store, so you actually, once you upload it into Internet Explorer, it'll work fine, except for with Firefox, you'll have to upload it into Firefox itself. Okay, so you go to Internet Options. We'll go to Content. We'll go to Certificates. Okay, so we want to go to Trusted Root Certification Authorities, and we'll import. It's a wizard-driven file name. So we'll look at Desktop, and it's looking for a x.509, but that's not what this file is. It's actually a .der file, so we'll go down here and find it. Let's see here, Firebox_CA. Open that up. Next, and next, and it's just as simple as that. You're about to install a certificate. Fireware Web CA gives you the thumbprint, tells you that anything that this certificate says is good, it's going to acknowledge is good. Do we want to install the certificate? And yes, we do. So that certificate is now imported into your browser. Now, like I said, Google Chrome is going to run off that same certificate store. I also run Opera, and I found that Opera runs off the same certificate store. Firefox is going to run off its own certificate store. If you're running Apple product, it has its own set of procedures for uploading there, and that is actually explained in the PowerPoint. There is a link to that under import certificates on a client device. There are instructions there on how to import those across the board on every browser that you can imagine that are, popular browsers. It also has some explanation on how to import certificates into your Android phones as well. So with that, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to send those across on the Q&A piece of the webinar. This will conclude today's training. As I said, we're going to keep this one short and sweet. It's pretty simple. If you have any questions, submit them. We'll be glad to answer them as quickly as I possibly can after the fact. And thank you for joining us for this tech tips and tricks. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everyone, for joining.